Welcome to CTV News Trendline with Michael Stittle and Nik Nanos.
Nick, welcome back. Thank goodness we didn't miss any major political news while we were away.
I love the sarcasm. Like what? Nothing has happened? Everything has happened? Holy smokes.
I think everything's happening all at once, and we have a lot to get through this episode. So let's begin with the ballot tracking.
Latest Nanos ballot tracking was just been released. Conservatives still ahead. You know, they were going ahead going into the summer. They've been ahead for more than a year now. Now they're at 42%, not just double digits, 20. Michael, count it, 20 points ahead. But check out what's happening with the NDP and the Liberals. They are absolutely statistically tied. And just so you know, if you look at the board, the reason why the NDP are above is because they're numerically a smidgen ahead, and that's the way we have to report it. But you can see the Conservatives 42, up 3 points, NDP up 1 at 22, Liberals down 4 points in the last 4 weeks to 22, Bloc 7, Green Party at 6, People's Party at 2. So Liberal Party going into, for them, bad new territory.
Wow. So, I mean, a lot to get through. Obviously, I think one of the major developments is when NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, in his words, tore up the supply and confidence deal with the Liberals. And I was wondering if that had moved the needle for anyone.
Well, it didn't help the Liberals, that's for sure. You can see they're down a full 4 points. And, you know, the Conservatives are up. But, you know, if you check out the trend line, in addition to looking at the change over the last 4 weeks, when we look at the super long-term trend line, the NDP and the Liberals have not been statistically tied since 2015, right? And this is good news for the New Democrats, at least on one level. Absolutely terrible news for the Liberals. The Liberals have to watch out that if they're down 4 points, they've got to stop hemorrhaging support, because this could be a potential political death spiral for the Liberals if this trend continues. And they've got to try to figure out what they're going to do to try to stay afloat and be competitive right now. You know, like, let's face it right now, Pierre Poilievre ahead by 20 points on the ballot numbers. Liberals aren't really competing against the Conservatives. Actually, right now, they're fighting for their lives against Jagmeet Singh and the New Democrats.
So we're looking at a race for who will become the official opposition.
If an election were held today, but you know, the thing is this is a dream scenario for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. He's got a 20-point advantage, and the Progressives are perfectly split, right? And so it makes the Conservative advantage now a hyper advantage from a strategic perspective, and them just splitting the vote.
What about the preferred prime minister numbers? Have you seen any change there?
Yeah, not much better news for the Liberals. You know, Justin Trudeau is now statistically tied with Jagmeet Singh, like within the margin of error on who Canadians would prefer as prime minister, and Pierre Poilievre still has a pretty comfortable advantage on that front. So, you know, why don't we just say, you know, bad news for the Liberals on the ballot numbers, bad news for Justin Trudeau on the leadership numbers. You know, we haven't even talked about the Bloc. The Bloc are going to be the ones to watch, especially considering the Bloc have basically put on the table an offer to prop up the Liberals. And, you know, the Liberals, you know, if their support unwinds in the province of Quebec, the next election could be epically bad for the.
That's right, Nick. I mean, so the Bloc has given the Liberals basically 2 bills to support, and they've given them roughly a month to do so. Otherwise, they might side with the Conservatives in a non-confidence motion. So the Liberals are in a really tricky spot here. Now, in terms of how popular support translates to seat count, you've also got the latest seat projections. I was going to ask you about the long-term view of that right now.
Well, you know, when you look at when we convert the Nanos polling into seat projections, which is really all that really matters, you know, you can see that right now, you know, the Conservatives are poised to pick up a minimum of 76 seats if the election were held today. You know, the Liberals are down about 82 seats, and you can see the trend line. There's still about 67 seats or thereabouts that are too close to call in the modeling that we do. But we have the NDP picking up 5 seats, the Bloc picking up 3 seats. Green Party could lose 1 of their 2 seats. Elizabeth May still safe, but the other one is kind of is up for grabs. But the Conservatives picking up seats in a significant number of seats in Atlantic Canada, about 18, upwards of 50 seats in Ontario, picking up 4 seats in Quebec. Prairie's down a little in terms of declared, and that's kind of because of the weird vote splits where the collapse of the Liberals and the NDP support kind of helped the NDP in a couple of things, make it a little more competitive. So doesn't mean the Conservatives are going to lose seats in the West. It just means that the vote splits are not helping them because they're not as healthy as they are in other places.
Do you want to zoom in on regions starting in the East Coast? Why don't we start with Atlantic?
Yeah, well, you can see on the left are the results from the last federal election modeled out for the new ridings, and then on the right, the current projections looking pretty blue. Check out. You can see actually probably the most material one is Dominic LeBlanc's riding of Beausejour. We're declaring that a toss-up right now. And you can see PEI right now, if an election were held now, would tilt towards the Conservatives. There's still that one Liberal riding in northern New Brunswick that's holding on, but pretty significant gains. And Halifax, one riding too close to call, and another one the NDP could pick up at the riding of Halifax. I think it is right downtown. The NDP could pick up at the expense of the Liberals. But the long and the short of it is significant setback for the Liberals in Atlantic Canada, and the Conservatives picking up an additional could be 18 seats in the Atlantic.
Nik, what about Quebec? And you also wanted to talk about the National Capital Region as well.
Yeah. So in Quebec writ large, there are some changes. One interesting thing, LaSalle-Verdun, that the by-election we just had, we have the NDP potentially picking that up. And what people don't realize that even though the Bloc picked it up, it was actually a 3-way race. So Liberals going down in the province of Quebec, that helps the New Democrats, at least in the island. So that riding could be a toss-up between the Bloc and the NDP. But check out the changes in the National Capital Region, which includes both Ontario and Quebec. There are ridings like Ottawa Centre that basically now are a statistical toss-up between the New Democrats and the Liberals. But you also see basically the Conservatives picking up in suburban Ottawa. But check out the other side of the border. Some of these ridings went Conservative when Stephen Harper is kind of like one of them. One of the ridings is actually Lawrence Cannon's old riding. Could potentially be in play with the with that being a bit of a toss-up. So some changes in Quebec, a lot of it in kind of the eastern part of or the western part of the province near the national.
Wow, that's a huge change there. I was curious also how the NDP were doing in Quebec. I think Jagmeet Singh has had a tough time getting any traction there.
Yeah, they might have a minor pickup, but something would need to transpire for Jagmeet Singh in a positive way for there to be a significant change in the province of Quebec for the New Democrats. The thing is the Conservative support in Quebec is actually getting pretty strong. It's now like in the mid-20s. And I think this is going to be the one to watch. That's why the interplay between the Bloc and the Liberals is actually going to be critical. I think the interplay between the Bloc and the Liberals and what happens with the Bloc could determine the future of the Liberal Party of Canada, at least in terms of the results in the next federal election.
Wow. Nik, in Ontario and specifically around the Golden Horseshoe, what are we seeing?
Well, so on the left, looks like the Red Fortress, City of Toronto, looks pretty red. And same thing with the Hamiltons. Hamilton, downtown for the NDP, but getting a suburban Hamilton, good for the Liberals. So check it out now. So suburban Hamilton, the Conservatives are poised to pick up seats. The NDP will still hold on to their downtown. I think it's Hamilton Center seat. But check out when look into the city of Toronto, you can see the NDP picking up seats. You can see the Conservatives picking up seats, and basically, the Liberals holding on to parts of East Toronto. But basically, the Conservatives making significant gains in Toronto, and this speaks to what traditionally has been a Liberal fortress, basically unwinding completely, and it's kind of like an advanced indicator of if an election were held today, it'd be kind of like 1984, like a Mulroney win, which was significant. And Brian Mulroney had a number of high-profile cabinet ministers right in downtown Toronto, the Don Valleys and Tobacos, and that kind of stuff.
Wow. Nik, are there any surprises in the prairies?
Not much. Kind of looks the same. The Conservatives are strong. I think the Conservatives just have to watch out that there might be some ridings that are a little closer. They got to look over their, why don't we just say their left shoulder? Because the thing is if Liberal support continues to decline, those individuals are probably most likely to vote for the New Democrats in the West. But not massive changes. But the Conservatives have such a big advantage in the prairies. They'll just have some ridings that might be a little closer. But I would expect even those ridings that are too close to call will realistically probably stay in the Conservative column. So I don't expect to see any major changes in the prairies.
Nik, how is Vancouver looking, and also just the overall province of BC?
Well, it's looking much bluer than it has in the past. So check out, basically when we look at the Lower Mainland and Vancouver specifically, basically all Liberal and NDP. With the Conservatives kind of further out from the city. Fast forward now in the latest Nanos projections, and you can see there's only one Liberal riding that we kind of declare in the south. NDP still doing well in the in a number of parts in downtown Vancouver, but a battleground, and that battleground is favoring the Conservatives, with the Conservatives picking up a number of ridings in the Vancouver area. So not good news for the Liberals there. NDP probably hold, and the NDP might be interesting to watch in Vancouver, because if the Liberal support drops, those individuals they can strategically vote NDP to try to block the Conservatives. But for all intents and purposes, the Conservatives on the ascendancy in the Lower Mainland.
Wow. Nik, in the House of Commons, well, before we went on summer break, we saw things were heated, let's say. It looks like things have gotten even worse now during question period. But we've also started to see some heckling outside of the House. I want you to listen to this clip of NDP leader Jagmeet Singh confronting a heckler.
You voted non-confidence tonight if it came up? Corrupted bastard. Want to say something? What? Want to say something? You say nothing? What was it that? You got something to say?
I didn't say corrupted bastard, but I said...
Is that what you said?
No, I did not say that.
Who said it?
Somebody behind me said that.
Was it me? Was it you? No. You sure? If it was me, I'd admit it, buddy. Was it you or not? If it was me, I'd admit it. What'd you say then? I didn't say nothing. It wasn't me. It was a gentleman behind me, I guess. Who is it then? Point it out. I have no idea who it was, buddy. My word. You sure it's not you? No. 100%. You're a coward. You're not going to say it to my face. That's what's up. Say what? If I said something like that to you, I'd admit it. All right.
Nik, obviously, an unfortunate incident, something that we really don't want to see. What's your takeaway from all this? I just feel like it's this big pressure cooker right now, and something has to give.
A couple things, Michael. First of all, we know that politicians are unpopular, but do things like that really need to happen? It's just, how are we supposed to get anyone to serve Canadians and to be in public office when stuff like that happens? So, I put that on the table because it's basically a sign of the times. We've seen over the last year, especially, an exceptionally toxic atmosphere in the House of Commons specifically. It's kind of like it spilled from the school to the schoolyard is probably the best way to describe it. And, I think, good on Jagmeet Singh for how he handled that. Remember, we had previous prime ministers who were actually strangled.
Yes, yeah.
Strangled someone who seemed to be a little threatening, and it's pretty clear that Jagmeet Singh is quite a fit lad. He could definitely handle himself. But it just speaks to the overall partisanship and hyper-partisanship and anger and frustration that's out there. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with voters being angry and frustrated. It's just when it manifests itself like that, it's just crossing a particular line that's not helpful. It's not, you know what? It's for that individual who felt that way, that was not helpful for what he believes in. And you know what? It's not helpful from a general perspective.
Nik, inside the House, if Canadians are tuning into question period, they may be pretty shocked at the tone of debate, and I think the Conservatives are doing everything they can to force an election, and a lot of opposition parties are navigating this. How much longer do you think the Liberals can survive this?
I don't know, but whenever I watch this stuff in the House, I feel like it's not question period, but clip period, where, and you know what, this isn't specific to any federal party leader. All of the federal parties are interested in generating clips that could be used in attack videos or YouTube videos and stuff like that. Now, how long will this government last? Well, looking at the numbers, I'm sure if you happen to be a Liberal, you will do everything that's within your power to not have a federal election this fall. But, the thing is that, the Bloc, the NDP have now distanced themselves. The Bloc are going to be like basically the only lifeline that they're going to have. So I think if the Liberals kind of negotiate something to stay alive, perhaps they'll survive the fall. But the reality is after that, I can't see this parliament or this government lasting past, past the next budget. So brace yourselves. We should all brace ourselves, Michael, because we could have an election perhaps in November if a deal is not reached, but realistically, at the very latest, this coming spring.
Nik, this may be a bit of a left field question for you, but do you think the Prime Minister would ever consider proroguing Parliament?
Well, we've seen prime ministers in the past prorogue Parliament in order to save their political skin, so nothing's off the table. When you're in survival mode, you're basically looking at whatever lever that you have. And you know what? We shouldn't take off the table that perhaps Justin Trudeau will decide not to fight the next election, even with all this stuff going on. So I think we're in a period of hyper unpredictability. And I think anything could happen.
Nik, fascinating stuff. As always, thank you very much and welcome back.
Till next time, Michael.